You guys are amazing. Like, I don't even have words. So much love for every single one of you. And out of love, I want to share with you guys the backstory to how I became the apprentice of the Yoshida brothers. As we do it, I'm going to answer some of you guys' questions about Shamisen, because you guys left so much in that last Shamisen video. And just to top everything off with a little bit of a cherry, we are going to do this while I go up north for a Shamisen performance. Before we do that, look at this. This is getting just way too long. Oh. Oh. Now that is much better. No? Dude, we gotta go. Okay. It's time to go. Well, that was quick. And it is cold everywhere. T-shirt was a poor choice. Whew. Oh. I have promised you guys a story, and today a story you will get. Before we get into all the details, I want to answer some of your guys' questions. So let me get set up here, just a second. Alright, so the first question here is one that I kind of wanted to avoid getting into, but you know what? Better just box it off than avoid it. Right here, don't you use the pick to beat the skin? That is not the part that I'm gonna... Yes, I will show later on exactly how the shamisen is played in a little more detail than I did in the last video. The one that I want to focus on right here is the skin of the shamisen, because this is a huge thing, and I want to share a little bit of information that you guys might not know. So, the Sanshin, Shamisen, and Tsugara Shamisen. Sanshin was originally skinned with snake, I think it still is. The Kyoto Shamisen skinned with cat. I'm not any happier about it than you are. And the Tsugara Shamisen is originally skinned with dog. Again, I'm no happier about that than you are, but one of the things that I want to tell you is that there's a huge shift in culture going on right now, a lot of it driven by the Olympics. There was originally going to be a performance of 1,000 shamisen playing for the 2020 Olympics, and it looks like that's been put back. The main reason being is this awareness of the fact that skinning it with dog, while it might be traditional, is not the best way anymore. They've come out with this new material called rippuru, and basically ripple in English, and this is a synthetic shamisen skin that they're working on perfecting to get the sound better and better and better, so that they don't have to use animal skin for this anymore. It's getting harder and harder for them to get their hands on the animal skin anyway, as it should, so this shift in culture is starting to happen, so just wait on that one. Does that answer that? I feel like that answers that. Next question. Is there shamisen music on vinyl? Yes, there is. One of the ones I recommend checking out on vinyl is Takahashi Chikuzan. I have his entire set on CD, and it is a very different style from the shamisen that you'll usually hear. So, next question from Annie. Hi Annie. How much is the shamisen? The shamisen ranges from about $500 to about, I think, $25,000. The cheaper the shamisen, the cheaper the sound. The more expensive, the more high quality sound. The big determining difference between the quality of the shamisen is the wood that is used, especially for the neck of the shamisen. The cheaper shamisen use a softer wood which wears down very quickly and gives a very soft, boom 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 type of sound to it. A more expensive shamisen will use a very strong and very hard type of wood that doesn't wear down very easily and gives a very crisp and clean sound. My shamisen itself, as I talked about in the podcast, if you haven't checked it out, I'll link it below, cost me somewhere between $2,000 and $3,000. I cannot remember exactly. I know it was expensive. It was a huge purchase at the time, and it's about a mid-level shamisen. I will be getting a new one, hopefully within the next year. I'm saving up for that right now, using money from performances like the one that we are doing today. The Yoshida brothers are using shamisen that cost $25,000 a piece. That is insane. Can you imagine using a $25,000 instrument? I know I can't. Now for a lot of the other questions, I'm gonna actually have to pull out my shamisen and show you guys some stuff. One of the questions that I wanted to answer as I head back is how I met Kiki. Now, I talked a little bit about how I met Kiki in my Kiki video, which I will link up here. But I met Kiki for the first time probably, you know what, actually I'm gonna put this down. So I saw Kiki for the very first time in Shibuya doing a street performance, and I put up my first Shamisen in Tokyo Kiki video after running into them in Yoyogi Park one day when a friend was coming to visit. It was at this time that I approached Kiki and said, hey, I play Shamisen as well. I'm putting up this video of you guys. I'd love to, you know, come out and check out some more of your live performances. They were super awesome about it, and it was the beginning of a long and beautiful relationship that we still keep until this day. Right now, we're looking at putting up videos every single month. After a couple years of putting up Kiki videos, we decided that we were going to make it a more consistent thing and we we're going to put some more effort into it. And this is what gave birth to the Shamisen Under the Cherry Blossoms videos, which are by far the most popular on the Shamisen in Tokyo channel. Since then, Kiki and I have done live performances together throughout Japan. We've traveled down to Shikoku together. We've gone up to the Taikai, the competition up in Aomori together. We've even come out here to Nasu to film some videos together. I just put up one beginning of this month. I just put up one on Shamisen in Tokyo. I'll leave links for everything below. We have another video with Kiki coming that we shot right here actually. Alright, let's head back inside for now. Alright, I get a lot of people asking me about where and how they can start playing Shamisen. I'll toss some of the questions right here. How would I start? Where could I get one from? Are there any places in Japan that teach foreigners? My thoughts on this are really complex because my approach to Shamisen is very different from other people's approach. My approach to Shamisen is the pure 100% go all in kind of approach. Not everybody does that, and that's totally okay. There are some people who do it just for fun, so it's really hard for me to answer that question. When I started playing Shamisen, I didn't listen to anything but Shamisen music for a grand total of 3+ years. For me, Shamisen isn't just an instrument, it is a lifestyle. It is something that I live by, and it's not a cheap instrument. You can get them cheap. As I said before, you can get them as low as $500, but those Shamisen will not sound good. They won't be as much fun to play. They'll take a lot more work to take care of, and they're gonna wear out really quickly, which means you've basically just thrown a couple $100 out the window. Even mine at $2,000 requires a little bit of touching up every year or so, and if the skin rips, that's $400 gone right there. Additionally, the bachi that you use to play it, my bachi cost me $1,000 each, and they wear out in about a year of playing. Again, that's with me playing about, 3-4 hours a day. But if you are serious about it and you do want to get into playing the Shamisen, I recommend find a Shamisen shop in Tokyo. There are a lot of online resources for Shamisen. I don't necessarily recommend it. It's one of those things that I feel that you've got to get it from the source. A lot of the people who are doing it online are absolutely fantastic. But there's a big distinction between playing the Shamisen and playing with the Shamisen. Both are totally cool. As I said, I'm just a huge fan of actually playing the Shamisen, immersing myself in it. The other question in here was, are there Shamisen teachers out there who speak English? There probably are. In fact, there's at least one that I've seen on Twitter right in Tokyo who gives Shamisen lessons. One of the things that I would really recommend is if you want the full experience, like the true experience of learning Shamisen, wait until you learn Japanese. That might sound like a huge ask, but I have my reasons for this. There was a section in the podcast where I talk about how I cannot express my true feelings to you about Shamisen and the depth of it in English. There's something that's lost in translation in doing that. I highly recommend you check out that podcast, again, linked below. But the thing is, if you really want to pick up the nuances of the Shamisen, if you really want to learn the instrument at its heart and at its core and be able to learn how to play it for the sound that it is, rather than just picking it up and playing with it, I recommend that you learn it in Japanese. Take the time, learn the Japanese language, pick up the Shamisen that way. I hope that answer isn't too strong. I hope that balanced out. Okay, questions from Hope. I'm going to link it right there. Hopefully I've covered a lot of these questions in what I've answered so far, but what I do want to add to this is there sheet music for the shamisen? There kind of is, like you can write out sheet music for the shamisen, but that's not really the way it's taught. It's taught by the teacher passing it down to the student, and you basically just learn and copy like movement for movement throughout the entire song. It's really done a lot by ear and by eye. Interesting shamisen history fact, some of the original Tsugaru shamisen players were blind. Let's go grab the shamisen and I'll try to answer some other ones. Like really, I don't want to discourage anybody from playing the shamisen. If it's something that you're into, definitely do it. But for me, it really is a lifestyle instrument. It's not something that you just pick up and you play sometimes. It's something that kind of consumes me. And so I can't imagine it any other way. It might not consume everybody, but in order to give you a little bit of insight into the care and the uptake that it takes to keep a shamisen, I'm actually going to pull out my shamisen. Give me a second here. Alright, so the question did come up as to whether or not the shamisen have a case and what the care and uptake is. This here is the case for my shamisen. My shamisen is made out of one long piece of wood, so I require a bigger case. Some shamisen can break into 3 parts, can fit them into smaller cases. So now, one of the things that makes playing the shamisen a little more challenging is I'm going to show you guys from start to finish everything that I've got to do in order to set up to play this shamisen. In this bag here called a nagafukuro. That leaves this bag here. This is a washi bukuro that protects the shamisen against moisture, because if you don't protect it against moisture, the skin here will rip. The amount of care required for this is just unbelievable. Then I open up my bachi case. Once you have the shamisen out, then you need to pull out the bridge, which is called a koma, and you need to insert it into the shamisen. This thing is not going to be in tune when you start. There we go, all tuned up. Now the other thing is, a cheap shamisen won't have something called a sawari. You hear this buzzing noise? That's created by this thing right here, which is called the sawari. And the sound with and without the sawari are totally different. Without it, so that's one of the other reasons why you don't want to opt in for like a cheap shamisen, because the sound will be completely different. I play about twice a day, once in the morning and once at night, and I've got to take it out and wrap it back up every single time. One of the other things that you have to consider is that the oil from your hands and whatnot will eventually wear it down, so it has to be constantly cleaned. Also, as for good places to go check out shamisen when you're in Tokyo, there's definitely that restaurant Kiko, which is just probably the best place that you can go and watch shamisen. And there's a restaurant in Asakusa called Oiwake. If you really want to see a lot of really good shamisen, I recommend heading up north to Aomori. There are tons of restaurants out there that have live shamisen performances. Also, really interesting fact, you see these tuning pegs right here? These tuning pegs were a gift from one of the Yoshida brothers, and originally there were only 2 sets in the entire world. This particular set right here can be seen in the Yoshida brothers video Kodo, which I'll link up there. I got a question about that, like plucking versus striking. I'm gonna post that question right there. Let me show you here. So I'm gonna zoom right in. The bass sound of a shamisen comes from going, but you can also do like, as I showed in the last video, you can go, or you can go. There's one that I love, but it's really difficult, called oshibachi, and I'll show you what it looks like. That is the basics of how the bachi is used. Now, as I said, the bachi does wear down. This is probably my 5th bachi. 5 of these things. Did that answer any of that? I hope it did. One of the other big questions that I get about Shamisen is how long I have been playing it. I have been playing the Shamisen now for 6 years. I feel like my learning curve was a little different than average because for that 6 years that I've been playing on average at least 3 hours a day. I usually play about an hour and a half in the morning and an hour and a half at night. And when it comes down to the question of how did I get into it personally, I lived in Japan once and I ended up going back to Canada. It was when I went back to Canada that one of my friends gave me a CD from the Yoshida brothers and he said, dude, have you heard this? It's called Shamisen. And I was like, no, I've never heard this. What is this? I listened to the CD and I absolutely fell in love with it. It wasn't at this time that I had decided that I wanted to play, but I went to see the Yoshida brothers at a concert that they did in the United States, and it had such an incredible impact on me that I fell in love with the instrument in a way that I never thought I would. I happened to stumble into the first place in line for their signing without even meaning to. Like, to this day, I apologize to everybody who was in that line. Like, I just walked up and was looking at CDs, and the guys were like, oh, do you want to meet the Yoshida brothers? And I was like, okay, cool. The Yoshida brothers came out, and I was just... I was excited, I was happy, and I made the audacious comment that I will see you guys someday again in Tokyo. They were super nice about it. They had a good laugh. They're like, yeah, good luck. We look forward to meeting you again. Take care. I moved back to Japan and I still had zero intention of actually starting the Shamisen. Instead, I bought my drift car and I completely crashed and destroyed it. There is a video about that linked. This car accident was really the trigger for me getting into Shamisen in the way that I am into it now. Someone said to me, you need to set an impossible dream for yourself and you need to chase that dream. I loved it. I really believed in that approach to things, and so I did set an impossible dream. I said I had the audacity to once tell the Yoshida brothers that I was going to meet them again in Tokyo, so my impossible dream will be learning Shamisen from the Yoshida brothers. Spent 2 years chasing that goal. Also, Julie, you asked, do you still learn from the Yoshida brothers? 6 years in, yes I do. I learn specifically from the older brother, and we meet almost every single month. Almost forgot to do this one. Somebody asked me, did you play the guitar before you played the shamisen? Yes, when I was young, I played the violin. In high school, I played the drums and the trumpet. I played the guitar from the age of 7. I learned it from my grandfather, who was an absolutely amazing man. And then I stopped when I came to Japan and hadn't played an instrument for years. You can play some guitar stuff on shamisen, but again, it's not really what it's for. You can do stuff like... like that. As for similarities between the shamisen and the guitar, I would say almost nothing. I know, they're both string instruments. You would expect there are a lot of similarities. There really aren't. The bachi that you play with is the key to everything. Everything going on up here means next to nothing. It's all about your skill with the bachi, and I feel that that's really different. Like, I played guitar pretty much my entire life. I played guitar like 20 plus years, and the shamisen to me is absolutely nothing like the guitar. It's just as different as learning 2 languages like Chinese and English. Like, you know, not only do you have the language, but you have the kanji, the Chinese characters and everything as well. That's how I feel about guitar and shamisen. They're just very different entities. Both awesome, just very different. I've got to get out to this performance pretty soon, so I'm going to be doing a little bit of warming up now. Alright, there we go. So, 2 years, I said. After 2 years of struggle, I finally landed the introduction to the people that I was sure that could introduce me to the Yoshida brothers. But then I had the hurdle to get over of building the bond with these people. So I did that. I spent about another half a year, maybe more, building a bond and getting to know them. And this led to me buying my Shamisen. It was at this point that they said to me, you know what? If you want, we can introduce you to the Yoshida brothers. The day the phone call came was probably the most exciting time of my entire life. He introduced himself as the older of the two Yoshida brothers and asked me if I wanted to come to his place for coffee. He invited me to bring my Shamisen and told me that he could make no promises, but if it was something that I was serious about, he would consider it. That led to this moment right here. At the time, that was probably one of the proudest moments of my life, and it all streamed from me sitting down with one of the Yoshida brothers to have coffee. Basically, what he said is that if I was 100% serious about it and willing to truly dedicate myself to it, that he would take me on as an apprentice. It was a huge moment for me, and of course I was going to dedicate myself to it. I put so much work into this, why wouldn't I dedicate myself to it? And as I've done this, I've learned a lot about myself. And I think that's one of the things we're going to go into next. You know, somebody asked me right here to go into a little more detail on my quest for personal betterment and how that ties into the Shamisen. I want to get into that, but I've got to get to this performance. I'm going to go do the performance, and then I'm going to answer that question. Alright, so I mentioned before about the car accident that I had, and I want to dig a little deeper into that so I can talk about this quest for personal betterment. I came to Japan, I bought a car, I raced the car for a while, I crashed it, got completely destroyed, and then I realized that, you know, I need to make some changes in my life. I need to do something that produces something. When I first started playing the Shamisen, I thought that I had gotten pretty good. And then I went out to my first competition, and at this competition there were some incredible players, and it really did a number on me to hear these amazing Shamisen players just do their craft. And I went home, tried to play because I was super motivated, and just I couldn't. And it brought along with it this shock that led to a lot of self-awareness. A lot of the stuff that I thought I had been doing really well up until that point in my life, I hadn't been doing as well as I thought, and it got me thinking, what can I do more? And so I decided, why not double down on the Shamisen? And so that's what I did. I doubled down on the Shamisen, and the more I practiced with the Shamisen, it became meditative, if you will. And the more I practiced with the Shamisen, the more I realized how far I had to go. And in realizing how far I had to go, I started to realize that every time we think we've reached something, there's something just beyond that. I started this whole process because I wanted to aim for a goal bigger than I imagined would be possible. I came to this realization that becoming the apprentice of the Yoshida brothers, that wasn't the end goal of this. That was really just the start. You don't just become the apprentice and then boom, you're a good Shamisen player. There's actually a lot of work that goes into it from there. And so yeah, that was, if I hadn't had the car crash and if I hadn't made the mistake of thinking that I was doing really good, you know, I don't think I would have brought myself to this point of self-awareness and wanting to do better things with my life. So that was just a huge sidebar there, but I think that really ties into the Shamisen and how it has helped me just create a better life. It's from doing the Shamisen that I've started putting all of the work into everything else that I do. In my work as a person, in my work here on YouTube, my videos with Kiki on the Shamisen in Tokyo channel, everything that I've started to do was born from that car crash and that moment of just pure self-awareness. So yeah, I guess that answers that one. I don't think we have any more questions. I think it's absolutely amazing how these tiny little things, one thing can lead to another, and our lives can change like this. If you've watched up until this point, seriously, thank you so much for joining. As always, like questions, anything you've got, leave them below. Obviously, some of this went up on Instagram if you're not following me on there. And another big one, Twitter. Just come hang out on Twitter. I'm gonna be starting my Q&As on Twitter pretty soon, so definitely, you guys really are amazing. I love you all. Thank you so much for joining. We'll see you soon.